Hey, what's up, guys? Tugi here, back again with another episode of my Buffalo Sabres franchise mode series right here on NHL 18. I'm not going to be able to say that for too much longer, and then 19 will come out, and I'll still say 18 because it's habit. It's fine. Don't worry about it. So far, as we are approaching the midway point of Season 1, this has been about rediscovering the player morale system, for better or for worse, and really trying to think of how to manage this team moving forward. Of course, there has been some discussion already as to whether or not some of the younger stars of this team, or at least who we hope turn into stars on this team, Middlestat, Thompson, Baptiste, even Bailey perhaps, being on the NHL roster rather than in the AHL, which, there would be an advantage to that, I would say. I mean, the negative right now, of course, is that AHL club isn't exactly lighting the world on fire. Casey Middlestat, 12 points in 25 games. He's not exactly killing it. But, of course, we'll also have to deal with the fact that if we send people down, waivers, if we send people down, the morale system, positives and negatives to both, of course. And obviously there's been some discussion so far as to whether or not leaving the morale system on was the right thing to do. But, I felt like to kind of differentiate it from the Milwaukee series, it was a pretty good way to handle it. Now, for this episode here, I think the game plan is to get closer to the deadline and really just see where we are as a team. Obviously, and actually there were some player morale situations I should have dealt with there, but I didn't. It's fine. Obviously, as we get closer to the deadline, we will know for sure whether or not we should look to sell off a couple of pieces. I can't imagine, as Berglund's back from injury, I can't imagine that we'll be adding to this team. It doesn't make a whole hell of a lot of sense. But certainly selling some players off would seem to be a better idea. As I think, what do we want to do here? What do we want to do? I think we'll take Porter out of the lineup. We will bring in Patrick Berglund. Could go best lines, but I'm not going to bother just because of how many changes this team's still going to need. Of course, I think we'll have that be the third line. For the moment, I don't think it's going to make that big of a difference. Of course, we still have some problems, and we've actually lost all 3 games. Make that 4 in a row to start off the sim. And Jeff Skinner goes down to a mild concussion. He's not going to be out for that long, but that is still unfortunate. Right, we'll have to go best lines here now because of that. So, who ends up being a healthy scratch? Nobody forward. Okay, just Tennyson. That's fine. So let's see. What do we have here in terms of point totals? I suppose that will be my tiebreaker. Molson still doesn't have a point since coming back into the lineup. Not a good sign. Not a good sign for him. Let's see. Third line, 11 points there. 14, 15. Only 7 points for Rodriguez. We'll definitely drop him down. I think we'll give Larson the better opportunity. And Sobotka with 13 points. I think we'll swap him out with Berglund. So let's go with Gergensen, Sobotka, Rodriguez, Wilson, Porter, Molson, the fourth line. Of course, there wasn't talk to Reinhardt's not a center anymore, he's a winger. As I mentioned in the roster editing spectacular, it really does depend on how they were listed on certain sites, just for the sake of simplicity. So we can play him as a right wing. We have been playing him as a right wing, so not that big of a deal. I think I'm going to have Okposo on the top line, though, for the moment. I'm thinking that's a better way to go. Let's go with Sherry, Berglund, Reinhardt, Larson, Eichel, Okposo. Maybe not the ideal first line, but we'll do what we can. To be honest, oh boy, that minus 13. That minus 13 is a little bit rough. Skinner's not out for that long, of course. We're going to have to edit this again in a moment, but just hoping to see if we can get some wins. And we at least got 1 win for this month, so that's good. I talked about the likelihood of us selling off some players. It's looking that much more likely now, I would say. Oh, what do we want to do here? Yeah, we got to get Jeff Skinner back in. At least we kind of know what we want to do. I think now it's going to be probably Sherry, Larson, Reinhardt as the second line. I think that'll be a decent way to go. And what do we want to do from there? To be honest, that works. That works, with the exception of Molson. With the exception of Molson being where he is. Let's run with that. Why not? What's the worst that could happen? What's the worst that could happen? Of course, we are dealing with some injuries still. Already throughout this run, we've had a couple more injuries. I'm not surprised to see us with a 13-7-2 record. It's looking that much more likely as we get closer to deadline day, as apparently Zach Bogosian's hurt too. Not for that long, though. Okay, it was a one-day injury. Nice. Who do we have back from injury? Carter Hutton. Carter Hutton was apparently injured for a day. Okay, I hate how it does that. I really do. Who's back from injury? Was Wedgwood hurt? Unless Hutton was hurt and it fixed it automatically for some reason. I don't know. Let's continue onward. We somehow beat Carolina in a shootout. I can't help but think that the ideal way to handle this already is going to be get to the deadline, sell off some players, keep certain guys here that we think will be a part of the future. Maybe even keep guys like Berglund and Savoca, but if we can manage to get rid of a Matt Molson for something, anything, probably not given what his contract is, but we'll have to decide just how crazy we want to be in terms of selling off, as we are at 15-20-3 as of January 1st. Rochester picking up some wins here and there. They're up to 13 on the year. And let's take a look at some standings and some stats. The SNS, as we are in dead last in this division. Ottawa's in a wild card spot, and they're 13 points ahead. I think we can already see how this season is going to go. Not well is the correct answer. Molson still doesn't have a point. Jesus, you're done for, aren't you? You are just not having a good time, sir. I want to take a look down in the AHL. Middlestat, there we go. He's up to a 78, so he's gone up by 2 points already, so that strategy has worked, at least for him. And despite that point total not being dominant, he is playing on a bad team. All the more reason, I'd say, to probably call him up now. I think we'll wait, though. We're 13 points back. I don't see any way in hell that we're overcoming that point differential. I mean, especially too when Carter Hutton, our starter, has under a 900 save percentage. Allmark's been pretty good. You could argue taking off auto rotate to make sure that he's a starter, but at 24, with that fringe starter potential, he's not going to develop in a drastic enough way to really make it worth it. And especially with the morale system being on, we might as well make sure that Carter Hutton's the guy moving forward. So let's go ahead. I said I was going to take more of an in-depth look, but we don't have to. We know what we're facing here in Season 1. We're a bad team. We probably should be. Now look, I know the lineup isn't exactly what the Sabres are going to run in real life, and I know that there's some optimism, some hope and optimism surrounding the Buffalo Sabres, although I will say that in real life, people might want to calm down just a little bit. They are in a better spot, but they're still not in a great spot. That said, we're not in a bad spot ourselves moving forward in this series. I like where we are. I like the potential that we have. We just have to keep those expectations in check, as we need to send down a forward here as well. And to be honest, I'm almost tempted to go with one of the younger guys again, Baptiste, Thompson, Bailey. Baptiste and Bailey are both 22. I think I'm going to call them both up. And we're going to send down, for the moment, Porter and Molson. So Wedgwood, Porter, and Molson will have to go through waivers. That's fine. I can't imagine we'll lose any of them. And we're still going to have too many players, of course, because of this, but I'm just trying to think of who we could have as a healthy scratch. We have 2 players too many, actually, right now. Rodriguez would have to go through waivers, and I'm thinking maybe Rodriguez and Wilson as healthy scratches so that we don't lose them, because those could be two of the players that we end up moving on from. And actually, by default, they're both healthy scratches. Never mind. Larson ends up being a healthy scratch. I didn't notice Rodriguez there. We'll take him out for Johan Larson. And let's see what we're dealing with. I think we'll probably keep Bailey and Baptiste on the 4th line for the moment. They're both 4th line players. 13 points for
So I think we are good. Let's go Bailey, Gergensons, Baptiste as the fourth line. And point total-wise here, 18 points there, 20 points, and 19. We'll just try to sort this out. Then again, Berglund hasn't played as much. 29 points for Okposo. Reinhardt's doing pretty well. Pominville, of course, hasn't played much. Connor Sherry, only 16 points on the year. I think we're going to drop him down. We'll go with a third line, who actually has the best face-off rating, by far Sabotka. We'll go Sherry, Sabotka, Larson. Let's again have... I could run Reinhardt at center. I could. Don't necessarily have to. I think we'll go... Let's go Reinhardt, Berglund, Pominville. Skinner, Eichel, Okposo. 29 points for Okposo as compared to the 25 for Reinhardt. I think we're looking okay. And again, that's a relative term at this point. If I say this team's looking okay, we're looking all right for what it is. Jesus Christ. Okay, that second and third pairing, that has to be switched up. I think, more than likely with the contract. Actually, Jesus, they're both here for 3 more years. That's a scary thought. Let's go Scandella, Beaulieu, Hunwick, Bogosian. And we'll keep that top pairing together. I think from there we're okay. Again, a relative term. And we will have to change up the AHL lines as well. Do I want to go best lines for these? Not really. Randall will stay out. Porter, Criscolo. Molson, of course, will add back in. At the very least. And who else should we add back in here? Randall. Let's see. Criscolo doesn't have that much potential. Why the hell did that switch to Scandella? EA, come on now. We'll add Sean Malone into the lineup. Of course, I'm going to have to change one of the 3-on-3 or 4-on-4 lines. 3-on-3 lines. I complain about this every time, but it is because I think it's a tad bit ridiculous. We'll add Alex Nylander there. He'll be pulling double duty, which is fine. I don't think we have to care. It's not as if the AHL club right now is going to be anywhere near playoff contention. So we're good. Oh, there are some players that want to meet with you. Oh boy, dismiss and never show again. I'm tempted, but you know what? We turned on player morale. Let's talk. It's Nick Baptiste. What's going on, buddy? Thanks for the call up. You're welcome. Yeah. Sure. Glad you're excited. I hate this. I hate this so much. It's the dumbest. It's the dumbest. How is saying I'm glad you're excited to be here a kid's glove approach? Kid's gloves approach. That doesn't make sense. I'm just saying congratulations. And you're like, don't treat me like some pussy. Like, what are you even talking about? I'm just saying congratulations. And he's like, don't treat me like a kid. I'm a man. Don't treat me like a kid. It's like, what the fuck? I'm just sorry, I guess, for saying congratulations. I don't know. This game, man. Sometimes I like the system. I like it in theory. But that's one of the things that I just never understood. I'm just saying congratulations for getting called up. And he didn't like it. So next time I'll just say, hey, you're terrible, and you're probably going to be sent down. Yeah, don't get comfortable here. And he'll be like, thanks, boss. Happy to be here. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. But it's all right. Let's go goaltenders for 2 weeks. Hopefully there'll be a computer-generated goalie in the draft. Probably not, but you never know. As we are 19, 24, and 7 as of February 1st, that much closer to deadline day. So we'll take a look at the standings here. Still in dead last in this division, and still 13 points back of a playoff spot with Toronto there. Unless, Toronto's the 8th seed right now. We do have 2 games in hand. We're not going to catch them. That's quite obvious. We will take a look, though, around the league to see if any moves have been made. Probably not, but you never know. Yeah, nothing so far. So we'll keep an eye on that. We'll probably go a week or 2 at a time just to make sure we don't miss any of the moves around the league. But for the moment, I think we'll probably keep the lineup the same, at least until we look to make some moves. Of course, we still have guys like Wilson scratched, so they're not going to be too happy. That fourth line hasn't been great, but it hasn't been terrible. So I guess we have that going for us. As, again, taking a look here just at contracts, we are going to have to worry about Reinhart. Eichel's extension is going to be kicking in. Of course, Jeff Skinner's extension. Well, actually, now he doesn't have an extension. We'll have to worry about that next year as far as signing him back up. And then Tennyson's in the lineup right now due to that injury. Actually, we can move him over to the right. Let's go Beaulieu, Bogosian, Hunwick, Tennyson. And Scandella's almost back anyway, as it is. So, any other improvement down the AHL? Middlestat still a 78. Nothing really from Nylander or Tage Thompson. 35 points for Middlestat in the AHL. CJ Smith actually up to a 76, which is pretty promising. Is that due to morale, or is that just natural growth? Hopefully it is natural growth. I believe he led the AHL in scoring in real life this past season and re-signed with the Sabres. So a promising prospect there. Let's go 2 weeks at a time. The more quickly we make it to deadline day, the better, as we can look to make certain decisions. Tennyson's out with a sore foot. We'll just have the assistant coach replaced because Scandella should be back. Hopefully it puts Scandella in that spot. I don't really trust it, so I'll check it myself because you never know. Okay, good. I did put him back in. Didn't think it would. You never know sometimes. I thought we might have had a forward there. As Goulet goes down to an injury as well, he's out for about a month. That's unfortunate. That is unfortunate. We are on a decent little winning streak here. Go figure. As I say, we're pretty much done for. We start winning games. Alex Biega is on waivers. Now I know, actually I'm 99% sure that Vancouver re-signed him. So I believe he'd had an extension kicking in for next year. No reason. Although, I believe a former, he used to be in the Sabres organization, I believe. There was a Biega in the Sabres organization, because I could have sworn I remember seeing a Biega play for the Portland Pirates back in the day. Could be wrong. But I feel like I'm right. And that's all that matters, I guess. I don't know. Tennyson's healthy, but of course he is a depth guy anyway. I cannot believe the point streak that we went on just to kind of prove me wrong. We're up to 25, 25, and 7 on the regular season. Let's see how far out of a playoff spot we are, and we'll also take a look at other trades around the league as we are up into 6th. We are still 10 points back, though, of Tampa. 65 points to be a playoff team right now. I mean, we're not horrifically off the pace now. If we continue to win games at this rate, and if Jack Eichel continues to be close to a point-a-game player, we may just have a chance to sneak in as the 8th seed. I still don't plan on buying at the deadline. I think that would be a mistake. But the thought of maybe still trying to get rid of guys like Molson, maybe even a Scott Wilson, just to bring in some draft picks might not be the worst idea. As we take a look at some trades here, Colorado swaps a 5th-round pick for goaltender Pavel Francouz. Winnipeg picks up a goaltender. The Boston Bruins make a deal with the Edmonton Oilers. Darnell Nurse and Kyle Brodziak going to the Bruins for Jeremy Lauzon, a 2nd and a 3rd. So interesting there as Darnell Nurse, and really the tendency, and yes, I know the trade that's below it, the tendency for these AI teams to just trade away their RFAs so they don't have to deal with the impending cap crunch, it's quite high. It's quite high. But again, Nurse and Brodziak for Lauzon, a 2nd and a 3rd. Anaheim gets Dylan Larkin. They're the Ryan Kessler replacement. They get Dylan Larkin for a 1st, 2nd, and Troy Terry. Red Wings fans, how would you feel about that return? A 1st and a 2nd, along with Troy Terry for Dylan Larkin. We have another deal as well, as for some reason the Islanders love to trade Josh Bailey. They send him out to Vancouver for a 2nd and Kyle Quincy, who must have been signed as a free agent by the Canucks. Ottawa gets Joel Colborne and a 5th, I should be able to say his name, former Bruin, for Chris Weidman. So Vancouver making some deals, Bailey and Weidman. Not too bad. I'm a little bit surprised that they're buying, but really, they didn't have to give up that much. They would have signed Colborne as a free agent, they would have signed Kyle Quincy as a free agent, and then they move a 2nd and a 5th to get Bailey and Weidman. Not a bad bit of business from the Canucks. Making moves with a little bit of intent, to try and end up being competitive. And they just beat the Florida Panthers 7-4. Now, unfortunately, nothing was really cleared up in terms of whether or not we should buy or sell. If anything, the waters got a little bit more muddy just because, we ended up going on a pretty good run. So we'll sim this next week and still see where we are in terms of the standings. We lose 2 out of 3. Let's just go to the 26th. Let's do it. The day before the deadline, we play Detroit. Nathan Beaulieu goes down to injury. We'll play Washington and Darnell Nurse and the Boston Bruins, apparently. So we beat Detroit. We beat Washington. What about the Bruins? Can we beat the Bruins? Of course, we didn't set up the trade block just because I wasn't really sure what we'd look to do. As we win 3 straight games, we've won 4 out of our last 5. We now have 29 wins, 27 losses, and 7 OTLs. The day before the deadline. Where are we in terms of a playoff spot? We are on 65 points. We are 8 points back of Tampa. They have a game at hand. To make the playoffs, it takes 72. So 7 points out the day before the deadline. Let's take a look at everything here. Let's try to figure out where we are, what the situation is, and what the best way to go about this is. Because still, in my opinion, not the best idea to buy right now to add to this team. Maybe get rid of some of the dead weight, call up some players from the AHL, and just stay the course while bringing in some extra assets and getting rid of players that we don't necessarily need. Just to have you guys get a look at what's going on here. And as far as the Metro goes, 2 teams out of it for sure, the Islanders and the Devils, which is perhaps a bit surprising. In the Atlantic, you could argue that the Red Wings and Panthers, definitely the Panthers, are too far behind the pace, although Florida have 2 games at hand on Detroit. In the Central, Chicago looking quite rough, Winnipeg leading the way there. And in the Pacific, Vancouver buying, despite, I believe, being the worst team in the league. Shockingly, Arizona and Montreal, 2nd and 3rd in the league right now, because this sim engine does what it wants. I do want to look at our stats here. So goals for per game, we're one of the lower teams in the league, not in the bottom 10 though, at least. Goals against per game at a 2.75, which, mid-table, but not in the top 10. So we're not a great team, obviously. 21.1% on the power play, so we have a top 10 power play. Not bad. And the penalty kill at 79%. Penalty kill needs some work. So overall, offensively, we're okay. Defensively, we're okay, I guess. Power play solid, penalty kill not so great. But I think that's not really surprising, given our defensive situation and the injuries that we've been dealing with. Jack Eichel, 23 goals, 36 assists, 59 points in 63 games. That is the type of performance that we need from him. Jeff Skinner only missed a game so far this year, 48 points, not too shabby either. Okposo with 43. And Connor Sherry, admittedly, since dropping him to the second line. Actually, did we drop him to the third line? I think we did. He'd still have power play time, though. 40 points, a good effort from him. 35 for Reinhardt at this point. Again, we have 19 games to go this season. Secondary scoring really drops off, though. That's the problem. Saboka, 31 points. That's actually pretty good. Larson at 27, also pretty good. Gergensen's and Berglund, also pretty good. Pominville, the fact he's only played 27 games, he has 13 points. It's not all that bad. Rodriguez has been, for a fourth liner, he might hit 20 points, which is pretty solid, actually. I said secondary scoring was a bit of a problem. Not really. We're doing about as well as I would have expected. I think one of the problems, of course, would be, the fact that we had Scott Wilson in the lineup for 42 games, only put up 5 points. Porter put up 4 points. Molson had 1 goal, 1 point in 17 games. That was your chance, Matt, to make it back into the league. Didn't quite happen, as I accidentally hit the wrong button. Isn't that nice? Gotta love when that happens. Let's take a look at our defense, though. Let's take a look here. So Risto with 28 points, 15 for McCabe, 12 for Beaulieu, and nobody else was able to put up over 10 thus far. You could argue Scandella, had he played those extra 6 games, would probably have made it. The goaltending has clearly been the issue, as both Carter Hutton and Linus Allmark are around the league average number. 915 is okay. Obviously, we're looking for anything over a 920 in terms of really having hope of being a playoff team. But Hutton's turned around a very poor start to this season, and Allmark has still been a very capable backup. You could argue again that maybe we should have given him the chance to start the year, especially after the injury and knowing that Hutton wasn't doing that well. But his numbers have kind of dropped off a little bit as well. So you get a look at points among defensemen. Ekman Larson with a decent amount of separation between himself and Klingberg. Erik Karlsson as well. I was going to say John Carlson, who's actually on the list, just above Brent Burns. And then forward-wise, 71 points for Kucherov, leading the way. Patrick Kane, McDavid, Tarasenko, Malkin. No real surprising names up there, maybe aside from Jonathan Drouin, but clearly he works well together with Max Pacioretty. There's at least an explanation for it. As goal-scoring-wise, only 4 players have broken 30 goals thus far. Kucherov, McDavid, Ovechkin, and Tarasenko. So there is that. Who's the penalty minute king, by the way? It's Chris Thorburn. Lovely. Who's the fight king? Is Jake Dotchin in the league? Because if he is, he will without a doubt be the fight king. It might be Thorburn. It's Thorburn. 16 fights. The guy loves to fight. Anyway, with that, as we get a look at least at what's going on at the NHL level, let's take a look at the AHL level as we try to figure out here what the best way to go about this is, of course. And one major problem here might be the amount of options we have as far as trading. So the Amerks, nowhere near the playoffs, as we would have expected. Let's take a look, though. Point total-wise, I know Middlestad's up there. Which is good. Smith, Tage Thompson, Nylander. So the guys we were hoping would have led the way are, in fact, doing so. Baptiste and Bailey. Bailey wasn't looking that great at the AHL level. He's been okay in the NHL thus far. So actually, let's take a look here. Number one, did I already look at other trades? I don't remember. I tried to make it through this entire episode without complaining about the fact that it was hot as hell in here. I really can't. So yeah, it's kind of throwing me off my game. Okay, there was another trade. Shea Theodore and a 4th round pick to Columbus for a 1st and Paul Bittner. Interesting. And a very good deal for the Blue Jackets in that, I mean, man, their top 4 defensively is got to be just ridiculous right now, right? As long as they're not dealing with injuries. I want to actually look at what the Blue Jackets defense looks like with Shea Theodore as a part of that team. You see Dylan Larkin, second line right wing. Oh, I skipped right past Columbus. Let's see here. Their defense, Werenski, Jones, Murray, Savartse. He's not even in. That'll drop Murray down more than likely to the second line, or the third pairing, excuse me. I imagine Theodore would be there. So they're looking pretty damn good. Dubois actually had a good amount of development too. He's up to an 87, which is pretty crazy. So as far as what we're looking at here moving forward, right? Let's take a look, because we have some decisions to make. First things first here. All right, so a team like Calgary, we could dump some contracts to if we had to. Okay, so we do have options. Calgary, Dallas, Detroit, Florida, LA. Okay, we have some teams we could work with. I'm not sure what the contract situation is going to look like for a lot of teams around the league. We do have options. Now it's just a matter of what the hell do we look to do. Goaltending, I don't really plan on trading Carter Hutton. He's going to stay. He's going to be our guy moving forward pretty much until Luukkonen's ready. I think that's the best course of action. So goaltending, I don't really plan on making a trade. I mean, put it this way, if we were to go full try hard on this, right? At the very least, the smart thing to do would be to trade Jonas Johansson, just to get the most out of that value, because he's never going to develop. So, if we could find some team that was interested in him, of course, we talked about, maybe having that be a rule. Nobody is. But, again, if we were to go full try hard, trade Johansson for like a 3rd round pick just to get something for him, because he is never going to develop. So let me know what you think about that, trading him despite the fact that no teams are interested, and we flat out know that he's not going to develop. And if we do trade him, do we get fair value? Do we just get back nothing? Like, what do we do? Let me know what you think about that. Defensively, again, we're pretty much set, pretty much good to go. We might as well keep the guys that we have now. course, there was some debate over whether or not Goulet was slightly underrated, and I'd agree. I mean, potential-wise as well, maybe he deserved a slight bit of a bump up. But still, we're going to try to develop him. We're going to try to develop Borgen among other players. So I don't really see anything that we absolutely have to do as far as this team goes. I think we're okay for the moment. Hopefully. But we'll see. Like I said, if we wanted to trade... Again, if we wanted to go try hard about this, which, you know, I wish there was a better way to phrase it, but there really isn't. If we wanted to go all out and just build up this team as quickly as possible, obviously, you know, tacking on someone like an Osmanski just to try and get back a 7th round pick in the future that might turn into somebody if we get lucky with the scouting, we could do that. But as far as, you know, making additions to this team, it's not really worth it. So I think we're good there. All we'd really be able to do is just tack on some of the guys that we know aren't going to develop, get draft picks back, free up some space, and take it from there. And, of course, just make sure that some of our guys have the ability to get that extra bit of playing time that they arguably deserve. And I can't imagine we're getting anyone to take that Molson deal. He's going to be here next year as well. But thankfully, the salary cap isn't that big of a deal. As far as contract extensions go, of course, we have some that are going to be kicking in next year. The biggest, of course, being Jack Eichels. And I mean, Scott Wilson signed on for 2 more years. Casey Nelson did as well. So we'll see. There's an interesting way, you know, an interesting couple of ways that we could handle this series moving forward. It just depends on what direction we want to take it in. So I'm going to leave it at that. I want to hear from you guys. What do you think? How should we handle trade deadline day? Should we just keep it the same? Maybe make a couple of minor moves. I can't imagine making a major move or a major addition or two. Number one would be a popular decision because it wouldn't make sense. And yeah, flat out, it wouldn't make sense. But that'll do it for this one. Thank you guys for hanging out. I do appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Looking forward to your feedback down in the comments below. Yeah, you know the deal. As all great YouTubers say, and even the shit ones, like, comment, and subscribe. Click that notification bell. Tell people about this place. We're over 9K subs now, which is pretty sweet. My 3-year goal was 10K. We didn't and probably won't hit 10K within the next month. We're about a month out from my 3 years on YouTube, which is fucking insane, by the way. But we did get partnered on Twitch. So that's, you know, that makes up for it. That makes up for it. Thank you, guys. I love you all. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.